Hey y'all, come on in the room. I'm Lan, your senior soul sister, and I decided to start my own hair channel, not only to chronicle my own journey with locks, but I watched so many videos, different videos, trying to make a decision between Sisterlocks and Microlocks, whether or not I was going to DIY, do it myself, or whether or not I was going to go to a loctician. And so I was trying to find a place where you all can come and just get all the information in one setting. So this is probably going to be a little lengthy, but let's go. So for Sisterlocks was started back in 1993 by Dr. Joanne Cornwell. And she has patented it, trademarked it. It is its own industry within itself. The website, sisterlocks.com, is going to give you the best information, particularly in finding a certified consultant. If you are going to spend that kind of money, you want to make sure that you're getting somebody who has gone through the training and is certified to do it. They will have a list of ambassadors, approved, as well as trainees. Well, don't get too caught up in the status, because you can get somebody who is in trainee status that has been doing locks, including Sisterlocks, for years. They just haven't sent in all the paperwork for it. I was under the misunderstanding or misperception that if you're in trainee status, you don't really have that much experience, but that's not necessarily the case. It could be, but it's not necessarily the case. So what do they do with Sisterlocks? They are using their own patented interlocking tool. They are interlocking your hair from the tip of your hair all the way to the root, whether you have 4 inches, 6 inches, 10 inches, or more, 15 inches, like mine was. And so they're interlocking your hair, and they're also using a specific grid pattern that is only used by Sisterlocks in terms of there's not a whole lot of variation. They may have 2 or 3 grid patterns that they use, but they stick primarily to those. You're going to have basically your 10 rows going back, about 6 to 8 rows going down, another smaller section going back, maybe about 6 to 8 rows going back, and then the same thing, about 4 to 6 rows going down. And then the back is going to be in a specific grid pattern as well. So those were the main things that I see that's different in terms of Sisterlocks. It is going to be costly, but at this point, Microlocks cost about the same thing, especially if you're getting them interlocked. So again, just go on their website if that's what you're interested in. They break it down by state, and they also give you the average in terms of prices for that state or for that region. So I found that really helpful. Now, in terms of Microlocks, there is so much with Microlocks, and they have become just as popular as Sisterlocks. You have a lot more flexibility with Microlocks. And the biggest thing is the methods, the ways that you can actually do Microlocks. They can, again, be any of these sizes that you want, from 1/8, which is super tiny, all the way up to about 1/2. So those are all going to qualify as Microlocks. But the biggest difference with Sisterlocks, they're only interlocking your hair. With Microlocks, you can start that process in any of a number of ways. When you have shorter hair, one of the options is to do coils. They look like the little spirals, and they're going to do those either with a rat tail comb. You actually have those brushes now that you can do that'll kind of coil your hair up, or palm rolling. So that's all just for the coils. And that tends to be used on shorter hair. You also have your two strand twists, and those work well with any length. And then you have your braids or plaits, which is what I was thinking of doing, especially when I was going to do them on my own. Um, and then you also have where your hair is short, but you want longer length. You could do lock extensions, but most people just are trying to use their own natural hair, whatever that length is. One of the things that I would say that I would really recommend before you make a decision either way is to actually go for a consultation. You can have a virtual consultation, which was probably going to cost you about $20, $25. just do it virtually. They're going to take a look at your hair. I don't think that that's as useful as actually going in and sitting down. So if you call for a consultation, whether it's not with the Sisterlocks consultant that you got off the website, whether or not it's referrals, and that's probably the best way to go. Find someone who has Sisterlocks, someone that you know, and ask them about their loctician and maybe try and do that way. Of course, you can always Google and see who's in your area that's doing Microlocks or Sisterlocks. But for your actual consultation, they are going to run about $50 to $65. And when I saw that price, I was like, what in the world are they going to do for that much? They're going to have you there for the better part of an hour. And when you go in, what they're looking at is the length of your hair, because that's going to go into the cost, the density and the porosity of your hair, particularly the density. I have longer hair. My hair at that time was about 15 inches, the longest part. The shortest part up in my crown was probably about 12 inches. I decided to cut 2 inches of my hair just to make the install a little easier. And what they're doing is there's going to be a base price. For example, in Tallahassee, the base price is probably about $1,500 to $2,000. In Jacksonville, where I work, the base price is about $1,000. And then what they're doing is they're adding $100 per inch of additional hair that's over, say, 8 or 10 inches. So, for example, with mine being about 15 inches, my quote was about $1,500 to $1,600 in Jacksonville. The two consultations that I had in Tallahassee was $2,850 and $2,500. And this was just to whether or not I did it by braids or whether or not I did it with interlocking. The way that they do the interlocking is if you have longer hair, they're probably going to start the interlocking using their fingers with this, what's called a 4-point rotation. And then as they get to the end of it, closer to your roots, probably a couple of inches from your roots, they're going to actually use an interlocking tool. They may use something that's similar to the Sisterlocks patented tool, or something else. But that's how they're going to do it. And what you've got to decide is if you want to DIY them yourself, then you have the option of doing the coils, the 2-strand twist, or the braids or plaits. Those are the most common ones. Those are the easiest ones. And what I had looked at in terms of DIYing is because I had been wearing my hair, had done micro braids all summer. And so I know how to braid hair. And so I thought it'd be easiest to find a grid pattern that I liked and then just go with that. What I was concerned about, though, was the grid pattern in the back, because I didn't feel confident or comfortable with doing that many parts for the really small sections that I would need and having them all lined up. But you can get one of your friends, you can get a college student who might be doing braids. You can even actually go to a braid shop and just tell them, I want 1/4 or I don't know, 5/8, whatever the size is that you're thinking about. I want those in micro braids, and then start your locks from there. So the main difference that I see with Sisterlocks versus Microlocks just gives you a lot more flexibility and options in terms of, do you want a grid pattern? You may want to just put your locks in and you don't really care about a grid pattern at all. And that's fine too. You can just have them started and go from there. I like the grid pattern. I like having more of the definition in terms of it, and also with your reties. What are reties? So either way, whether you get Sisterlocks or Microlocks, you're looking at maintenance. So in addition to that $1,500 to $2,000, $2,500 that you're going to spend up front, you also have to weigh in your reties or your maintenance. And that's going to be every 4 to 6 weeks. You are going to have those roots redone. And those are generally going to be done by having them interlocked. One of the reasons that I decided to go with Sisterlocks and not do the braids myself in a DIY was because I was concerned about the difference in the pattern. For example, I have long hair, and so you were going to have one section that was braided. But then as you went back, and whether or not I did them on my own or whether or not I went to a loctician, the rest of it was going to be interlocked from my roots and anytime I went for maintenance. So eventually I was going to have this whole section of hair that's going to be interlocked, and then the other section of hair which was going to be braided. Braids or plaits are going to be the closest to interlocking. And so you may not see that much of a difference, and that may not matter to you. So if that's the case, then go with that. What else did I want to talk about? Let's see. I believe that's really about it in terms of just what you should consider in the beginning. Definitely have yourself the consultation. I would highly recommend that. I know $50 to $65 seems like quite a lot, but if you are thinking about doing this with a loctician, they're going to ask for that anyway. Nobody's going to just get started on your hair without having that consultation to just go over everything with you. Cost, maintenance. They should also be giving you a test lock during that 1 hour session so that you can actually get an idea of what it looks like on your hair. And one of the other things that I would recommend, if you're really not sure, maybe just do some micro braids and go with that for maybe a couple of months, 3 to 6 months. See how you like styling and dealing with micro braids. That's what I had done all summer. I had been entertaining getting either Sisterlocks or Microlocks for several years. I've been natural for quite a while, but I just wasn't really ready to make that commitment. And it is a commitment, not just in terms of the money, but also your patience in this journey. It is a journey. When you get your locks initially, they're going to be considered baby locks. You're going to have to deal with not having them unravel. Um, Particularly when you get ready to wash them. You are able to wash them within a week, 2 weeks after having them started, but you will need to do something that's called banding, where you don't have them just loose because you don't want them to unravel. Baby locks are going to go into the teenage stage, and you're going to have a lot of frizzing. I'm told you're going to have some shrinkage, but your mature locks, even with micro locks or sister locks, is not going to happen for at least a year to 2 years. So just be prepared for that. And throughout that journey, there are going to be some times when you may not particularly care for your hair all that well. So we've all gone through that love-hate relationship. But this is definitely an investment. It's a commitment. It's not something to do where you say, okay, in 6 months or a year, I'm going to change my hairstyle. This is a permanent commitment, at least for however long. Like, this is it for me. I don't plan on doing anything else other than maintaining these locks as they come in and grow in. So I hope that has been helpful. If it was, please like and subscribe. I'm going to come back and tell you more information about my actual install experience. I'm going to give you some information on making your own hair remedies, particularly for dry scalp and for itchiness. One of the other things that I would recommend, though, is this. It's called the KnottyTruth. And I got this off of Amazon. I found it really helpful. I think I paid maybe $12 getting it used. These are some interlocking tools because I plan on eventually figuring out how to do my own in terms of my reties, but that probably won't be for at least a year once I have really developed my locks. So I hope that helps. Thanks, y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.